Hello and welcome to Springboard, your virtual university. This is your most inspirational show and the point of convergence for the greatest minds. My name is Albert Ocran, welcoming you on behalf of the Virtual Academic Board chaired by Comfort. This is the beginning of a brand new series that I believe will shake your very foundations. So call somebody to join us for this all-important discussion. Springboard is brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation in partnership with the Multimedia Group and proudly sponsored by MTN Pulse, UMB Bank, and the Enterprise Group with support from the Graphic Communications Group and My Joy Online. So, if you missed out the Springboard virtual convocation of the Roadshow last week for any reason, just find the speeches by Dr. Joyce Ayi and Nana Jumobene on my YouTube page, Albert Ocran, and subscribe while you are there, and you will find them very, very instructive. So, today we begin a brand new series called My Top 10. You're finding out the most important principles or lessons that undergird the lives of accomplished people, and even more importantly, the experiences that led them to these lessons. And I want to start with somebody that I've known for 50 years. Yes, 50 years. He's a legal practitioner and an award-winning technology innovator. And it's my joy to welcome the CEO of the Margins Group, Mr. Moses K. Baiden, to the Virtual University. Moses, good to see you.
Thank you, Albert. I'm happy to be here.
The last time we had you must be the 2017 Festival of Ideas as keynote speaker.
I think so. It's a long time ago.
And it was a great experience.
I'm glad that it was.
So, there's so much I would like to pinch from 30 years of business experience. And I must say congratulations, 30 years. So two things strike me as we start this conversation. The first is 30 years of experience. And the second is $100 starting investment. I'm sure many people will say, oh, that can't be true. Let's talk about that before we start with your big lessons, Moses.
Well, yeah, time flies when you're having a good time. And it's been from 23 when I started my first business in my father's garage. And I find I'm 55. And 30 years has gone just like that. And this $100 story it just proves that no obstacle should be in the way of one's vision and purpose. And where there's a will, there's always a way. Wherever you lack resource in one area, you have resource in another. And when you don't have your resources, you have other people's resources to combine with your resources to achieve what you want to achieve. So let's not despise small beginnings. No matter where we're starting from, it's the mind and the passion that drives us to where we want to get to. You know.
I'm sure I'm already teasing out the lessons of your life, but the purpose of today's discussion, as well as those that would follow, is to hold the hands of the next generation of people coming through. I had the privilege of knowing your father, and he inspired me a lot because he was the consummate entrepreneur, and I'll just watch him and wonder how he did what he did. So just the picture of what you are doing and the lessons of your life could really possibly inspire many others to reach out and do themselves, if I may say so. So we are hoping through this series to raise many more Moses Baidens, many more people living out their dreams in business, in any other area that they've chosen to go into. Do you sometimes think about what it would be like to have many more 30-year-old businesses in this country and the impact it would have on unemployment?
Well, that's the whole point. A society, an economy, a political environment and system is always changed by people, I would say. So the most important thing that we have in a business and in a country is a human resource. So depending on the values, the orientation of that human resource and what fulfills them, it can determine what happens. You know, someone sat on the an apple tree and Newton found the law of gravity, right? Somebody sat under an apple tree and ate the apple. It's the same two people sitting under the tree. It depends what they do with the apple. So it's this transferring of know-how, transferring of the orientation of the mind, and the values that people strive for. It's very important. The transformational agenda. After all, the same brain. So it's about what we put into it. And I've always said that in that respect, I believe that we can transform Africa in a decade because of our demographics. And
last point on that, do you think we should amend our approach to education? Because obviously, the kind of thing you are doing, you probably are not exposed to it in the regular educational curriculum from primary school to secondary school. I have a crazy notion that entrepreneurship should be introduced in some form, playful form, to people as early as in primary school. Is it crazy?
I like the word playful, but definitely education is in different forms. The most instructive ones is actually mentorship and apprenticeship, when you actually apply the knowledge to solve problems. And I think there's a big division between the value that people put on academic education as opposed to problem solving. And the reason why I like the word playful is that the medium of instruction must be such that people can remember the lessons of applying knowledge. And my mother, she was a teacher, but the way she always taught you was through games and play. So you actually learn without feeling the pain of it. You had to act in drama series, whether it was Merchant of Venice or it was Shakespeare's Othello or Macbeth. You play parts and you discuss lessons learned. So it wasn't like you have to learn it by rote. So you develop that love for literature and love for words, and you develop some deep thinking abilities and some imagination. So play is very good. So we don't think of knowledge transfer only in the formal structure. Of course, there's some discipline learning basic math and science or syntaxes, grammar, and so on. But above that, I think we put too much emphasis, and in our society, we glorify academics. It has its place, but at the end of the day, we're living to solve problems. So if that knowledge does not solve problems, then it's irrelevant. People ask, okay, why do you learn old Latin maxims? Why do you learn Shakespeare? Why do you learn? That's fine. If you just learn it for learning's sake, then there's no lessons there. But for instance, if in Shakespeare discover several characters, these characters actually exist in life. And you can recognize them when you study them deeply, not from an academic point of view, but from recognizing that people are driven by different things. So you have an Iago everywhere you go. You must recognize an Iago. You have an Othello everywhere you go. You must recognize that. You have the man in Ocran's Beautiful Ones. You must recognize the man with no power, struggling against a system that's corrupting against him. These are all characters in our lives. And when we understand deeply, not just the characters that they appear in the book, but the big, deep philosophical reasons why these characters are created, we're able to better deal with the dynamics in our lives. That's what character we want to play, and the consequences of these characters when we look through a spectrum of a lifespan, So those lessons, that deeper thinking, that problem-solving skills, those reflective values, they guide us in complex situations. This is too short a time. I could go on forever, but it's a much more deeper appreciation of life.
Interesting. For somebody who is into technology, you've not abandoned your literature and philosophical orientation. And just to add that complex problem solving is one of the top 10 attributes that the World Economic Forum identified for anyone who wants to stay relevant beyond the year 2025. So you hit the nail right there on the head. Moses, let's go to the top 10 principles of your life. And for the benefit of our viewers, we'll take the first 5. What are some of the strongest principles that you believe in? If you can call them commandments, you can call them lessons, you can call them principles, but what are the top things that you hold very dear? And so we'll just first list the first 5 and then find out why. What made you settle on them?
Well, since I got your invitation and asking me to do this, I've been thinking and trying to reorder my thoughts in order to there are several principles, but I've selected what I think are the top important ones, whether it's for business or it's for living. First of all, there must be a purpose to your life. or a purpose to a business, a purpose to everything you do. And so we have to examine purpose in order to find relevance and fulfillment. But there could be several purposes during a lifetime. So what will be the next principle after purpose will be passion. We can be disciplined. We can be taught discipline from the home and from the school, depending on what good home you come from or what good school you come from. But discipline only goes so far. It's a certain regime that makes life easy by routinizing certain actions that makes you operate in this world. But beyond that, what really will keep you up? You can do that by discipline, but to be much more impactful, it's what you love. And that's the first commandment. Love. Love drives everything. Love is passion. It's what pushes you and what keeps you up and what makes you have a competitive edge in business. It's what gives you a good marriage. It's what takes you through challenging times because you love something. Sometimes it doesn't translate into financial gain or wealth accumulation, but it makes you happy. But if you can combine that with some sort of financial freedom, it'll bring you some kind of fulfillment. So passion, it flows from the soul. It's not because you've been taught a certain regime. That will keep you focused over time, 30 years, whether you're making a lot of money or not. And invariably, if you're passionate about something, you can do incredible things, on a global level, because you're invested in, not because you're so smart. There are a lot of smart people, but because you're passionate about what you do. So that would be number 2. Number 3 would be values, because values define which range of passions you pursue and which range of purposes you pursue. So for instance, if you find out that you're a good thief, that can make you wealthy, but it's illegal, right? So if your value says that I don't want to do anything that results in, that is the proceeds of crime, that's a value. If you say that I don't do anything that I'm not passionate about, I don't want to do anything that does not have integrity, I don't want to do anything that I do alone. I want to do it to the team to have a bigger impact. I don't want to do anything that's not exciting, that's mundane, that does not result in an innovative change in the status quo, to produce something that is inspiring and inspires my team, then I'm not going to do it. So that's values. The values I just told you are the values of margins, of course, which is pretty. Passion, respect.
So let's do the first 3. You started with purpose, and then you went to passion,
values.
Then you went to values.
Yes. And then whatever you do, you don't. When you die, I don't know whether you remember the richest man in 1921 in Ghana. Do you?
No.
Okay. So it's not money that really matters. You must also recognize that you're living as a human being. And the human needs that you have that don't necessarily translate into financial results. So you have to have a work-life balance. And then you have to be humane in everything that you do. You have to impact humanity and leave some footprints on the sand of time. Your life must be significant, in that sense. And you have to grapple with a life-work balance, and a life-work balance is not prescriptive. It's different for everybody, and the last one we're talking about, work-life balance. But, my partner, my wife, helps me along that balance. That means that we have different roles that we play. I'm good at some things. I'm not good at some things.
Do you still do karate?
Not of late. I'm trying to start again. I just bought a new kimono. And
your clients know that you were a black belt in karate.
So that's why the purpose. Everybody has several talents, and I was a super athlete, both on the track, on the field, in football, and most people remember me as.
I think your clients should come and see me for the biography, because if I'm not wrong, you were the goalkeeper as well who were in school.
Yes. I was goalkeeper. I did hurdles.
So just for those of you who see the award-winning CEO, you think The school goalkeeper in primary school and the black belt, karate black belt in secondary school.
Yeah,
That
I was
must have
actually
been
the
fun.
national champion by the time I was 17.
Yeah.
And that's because, I mean, I like profound things and Chinese martial arts, all the different kinds of martial arts, later African Goju, Kung Fu, Taekwondo, Jiu-Jitsu. These were things that I was interested in. And I applied myself to it, as you know. By the time I was in Form 2, I was school champion. Form 3, I was lightweight champion. By Form 5, I was national middleweight champion. After Form 5, I was national champion of champions, And it's just the discipline and the joy of getting into a very serious physical regime, uniting your soul and your body, and feeling that energy that comes with that high level of training, If you haven't experienced it before.
Do you find the experience of martial arts and the discipline that comes with it percolating into your business approach and outlook?
Sure. I mean, athletics, martial arts, and so on, it combines all the skills that you need in business and in life. I mean, first of all, you have to be consistent. Before you can get your body into a super lethal weapon, you need to be jogging 3 kilometers every day. You need to be able to do 100, 200 press-ups a day. You need to do all the rigorous exercises. You need to do kata. Then you have to synchronize your moves, your breathing, your muscles. And at the time you're at championship, you have to be a complete machine. Your body, your soul, your mind should be at one, Now my body cannot do the things that I used to do. But I used to be able to jump over 15 people, you remember? I used to be able to smash a board 3 meters up, But all that takes, I mean, look at my hands now. They used to be very different. But to get your hands to a level where you can break bricks and so on, it's about a year of conditioning. It's a very long time. You have to be very determined and very passionate. So then again, you're good at sports, you're good at history, so you have to choose one thing that you do out of all the things that you're good at. You can't do everything. So some phases of your life, you do some things, and then you transition, you have to make a choice.
Is that what you call purpose? That
Yes.
you understand that the purpose is multifaceted and also transitions.
And you can't do everything. I did most things that I loved, but I think in life you can do maybe 2 or 3 things very well. And that's about it. When I finished law school, I was in the top of my class in terms of percentiles. I was a teaching assistant. And at the time I taught jurisprudence. I was supposed to be a teaching assistant in the law faculty in jurisprudence. And most people thought that I'd thrown away my legal career and I'd gone into business, was carrying a bag around, trying to sell stuff. But I knew I was never going to practice law, although I love the law. And I dare say that it's probably, for me, one of the best degrees for business. But I learned it to understand and love it, not to practice. People found that very odd, But I knew I wanted to be a business person. And I knew that I wanted to prove that you could build a multinational company from Africa. There's so many things I wanted to do. I wanted to go to Harvard. I never got there because I started the business. And after a while, I thought that, okay, I'd rather hire Harvard people. So, I haven't had a day of education outside Ghana. I've had education in the world, in maybe 56 countries, but many people who taught me a lot of things, but not formally sitting in a class to do an MBA. I'm a lawyer after all. That's what I learned in school, but that's not what should limit you. If you want to pursue knowledge, there are people that know. You just have to know the right person to ask. And when you ask, don't forget the answer.
Ask questions. And I'm asking you questions because there's so many things I'd like to find out. Moses, let me summarize your lesson so far. We've talked about purpose.
We talked about purpose. We talked about passion. We talked about values. And we talked about humanity. Knowing what you have to achieve in terms of a life-work balance. And also the significance of your life on humanity.
Some will call it legacy.
Yeah, well, yeah. Legacy in as much as it's in tune with your core competency.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Some
values,
people
and the fourth is
legacy that-
humanity.
Yes.
What would be the fifth?
Knowledge. That's what we just talked about. That, in one lifetime, it's not possible to learn everything that there is in life. So one has to recognize that To get relevant knowledge, you should, first of all, you can read, take short courses, understand where you search for the information you need. Then you must find people who have done it before. You can spend 50 years. In my case, I have some things that I've learned over 30 years. I've also been taught by other people that I didn't just wake up and have the knowledge in me. But if a young entrepreneur wanted to know something important that I've done for 30 years, all they have to do is think about a question that they want to ask. Make sure it's precise. Make sure they ask the question, listen to the answer, and don't forget the answer. Because that's 30 years of work.
Ask good questions, listen to the answer, and don't forget the answer.
Yes.
Talking of which, I'm going to bring a young person starting out in life to ask you a couple of questions. And she's listening out there, so you are saying she should ask deep questions.
Yeah.
Listen carefully to the answer and don't not forget the answer.
When I was younger, in my 20s, I used to travel to China, Korea, many parts of the world. And I was confused because so many business problems I didn't understand. So if I knew I was going to meet a global business leader, I prepared for weeks, literally putting a question together. And if I went to a cocktail or a dinner and I was introduced to the person, I would say, Mr. X, I've been following you. There's one thing I've been wanting to ask you that I can't solve. And I wonder if you can help me. He will invariably say, yes, what is that? And then I ask my question. And because I have just a short time, these people tend to have very little time. One question, precise, of a problem that I'm facing. I listen to the answer and I don't forget the answer.
I'm telling you, this is probably the strongest point you've made today, because you will find that in the course of your life, you may get into an opportunity where you meet somebody of great significance. And if you don't have this kind of orientation,
exactly,
at the point where the person becomes available in your line of shot, you could easily divert to the refreshment table instead of heading for the person with the B line.
You would have lost the concentration. You go to a cocktail, you're thinking about the champagne you're going to drink. No, me, I've been thinking 1 week ahead. I don't even taste the coffee I'm drinking. Sometimes I even forget to eat at the dinner table. I have one question. I need an answer because I don't know the answer. And that question will unlock many problems for me, So imagine, I met so many great people all over the world, from Asia to Europe to southern parts of Africa.
If you just joined us, this is Springboard Virtual University. I have the pleasure of hosting the Group CEO of the Margins Group, trying to find out the top 10 principles that undergird his life, and very importantly, some of the personal and business experiences that helped ingrain those principles in his mind and, if I may add, in his heart. He's been talking to us about purpose, about passion, about values, about humanity, and very importantly, about knowledge. He says, listen, you must learn, lifelong learning, you must read, and very importantly, seek out people who have knowledge. And when you meet them, you must be decisive. Ask serious questions. Listen attentively to the answer. And very importantly, don't forget the answer. Moses, beyond these 5 principles, I have a feeling from your last answer that focus must find itself somewhere in there. Maybe it may be under discipline, which you put under passion. But let's push on. What will be the principle number 6?
Because to embrace change.
Embrace change.
Because it's constant. People are afraid of change. So when they get to a comfort zone, they want to stay there. But life is full of seasons. As the Bible says, there's a time and for everything, And there are times and affairs of men, when they've taken by storm, leads on to fortune. If not, all their lives is spent in misery and in shadow. That's Julius Caesar. But it's just a quotation. But everybody has opportunities. Everybody has opportunities if they are concentrated.
So if your outlook is one that embraces change, you're saying that you are
looking for a change
better
in the pattern in order to take advantage of the opportunity. When you're preparing, you're looking for a set of circumstances to come together. where there's a change, so that the preparation that you've made can be made to bear. There's a season for everything. You can't go planting in winter. You have to wait for spring.
Give me an idea about the kind of transition from, it would seem that the margins group went through a phase of growth that I don't want to call organic, but there was a growth pattern that was gentle. A gradient was quite gentle. Mm-hmm. And then it rose with the building of the factory, and all of a sudden, all over the world, there was a lot of talk about what you were doing. Do you find that there seems to be a long period where you keep sowing and nothing much happens, or not enough for your liking, and then you suddenly spiral? Would that be the pattern that...
So that's where the purpose translates to a vision, goals. And that's where the goals give you some milestones. And that's where you get your checklist of where you're going. And that's what brings focus, So just to make it a little more practical, I am a lawyer, barrister, but I was always interested in computers. So when I finished law school, I think I'm one of the first people to have had a laptop with a modem and a email, CC mail. We're talking 1992, 93. I had email, right? Called CC mail. And it probably going to cost me my whole savings, about £3,500. And I wanted to be in the computer business because I was interested and passionate about computers. And I wanted to write code because I was interested in computers. But then I realized I didn't have enough money to go into the computer business because my brother had a company in London which was selling computers and printers and software and all that. So because I didn't have the money to do that, I said, okay, there's definitely a change. We're moving into the personal computer world. I want to be involved, but I can't afford the capital that's needed to buy the computers. What else can I do in this change? So I discovered that the computers will no longer print to typewriters. They'll print to laser printers, inkjet printers, and so on. They'll print on different kinds of substrates. Somebody had to do the finishing for them. Somebody had to hold them. So I focused on the things that the computers print because that was easy to focus on. And I set my goal on making sure that I could inspire a team of students to work with me on part-time basis as salespeople and say, hey guys, if we put these print finishing systems, binders, laminators, paper, toners, in the places where people were selling computers, we can have a consumables business. And we need just 1,000 of them to get an average turnover of 1,000. And we can make $1 million. So simple construct. Because that's what we could do, leaving school, So we did that. It's a long story. So in 24 months, we made $1 million. So you see the focus and the change and the focus, and wanted to see which part. So I abandoned trying to be a programmer. I abandoned trying to sell hardware, and I focused on that. So we had this sort of confluence where we were somehow in the office market, and then we started lamination as the first company to introduce lamination IDs in Ghana. So we had a choice. We could have been an office type company. We could have been a distribution company, retail, and so on. But we chose to go into identity because we could see that had some special knowledge that was on the board of IT and understanding materials and substrates and printing technology and code and chips and all that. And it was a new market, a new green market. So we abandoned all the other ones, which seemed to be profitable. And then we went into this ID market. And we started somewhere around 96 or so. And by 1998, we created a whole new business. And our old business is now almost dead. And we have a whole new business in the identity ecosystem, where we connect electronic identities to product solutions and services across all platforms. And that decision that identity was going to be key, electronic identity was going to be key, not in the ICT world that was taken over in the late 80s or 90s, but in the digitization ecosystem, the fourth industrial revolution, which is now also evolving. So the confluence of that put us in a place where we can offer our customers superior services, which is based on a deep knowledge of our industry and how to solve people's problems. So the digitized ecosystem has also transferred the advantages that markets and people have in different countries. Now, there's not capital that's really important. Critical thinking and understanding what you want to do. Because it's the people that think and design that have the value, not the people that make them. Because the people that think, design things for people to build. And the people that build don't necessarily know what the building is for. So it's a different level of industry that gives Africa, for instance, a big advantage. I mean, today we design things and build them all over the world. And even though they are built and outsourced to be built, the design thinking is from us. Sometimes we build different parts of things and we put them together. The people that build the parts don't know what the integrated finished product will do, because it's that of our team that critically brainstorms and thinks these things. So you're in control of your destiny in terms of what products and solutions and services you want to bring to your customers in the market. And because of that, you can scale, because now finding resource is global. So we have people that work for us in different countries. Some of them have never been to Ghana before. They don't need to come to Ghana, and we pay them, And so it's a whole different thinking. So the focus and the direction, the journey and the vision will take you where you're going. I say to my friends and some of my young friends that, if you don't know where you're going, any car will take you there.
Right.
So if you're going to Takrady, you start going to Takrady. If I don't say I'm going to a destination, I'm going in a direction. Because I might go past Takrady and go past Ivory Coast. Who knows? I might end up in the Gambia somewhere. Right. So I'm going west, right? And an air-conditioned car comes and says, Tamale, we have an S500. It's full. It's got a lot of drinks and food, and it's going to Tamale. I don't know. I'm not going to Tamale. So I'm not going to sit in the S500. But if you don't know where you're going, of course you sit in the S500, you end up in Tamale. And you say, God, how did I get here? This is not where I'm going. So that will other people's steps when you talk about focus.
Right. Two themes seem to be running constantly through your presentation. One of them is critical thinking, the kind of thinking that looks beyond what the average person looks at. And then also a focus on problem solving. And so it would seem that you literally have the courage to walk away from what has worked for you at any time, because you see a bigger world, a bigger opportunity. And that for me is very interesting. This is Springboard, a virtual university, discussing today the first in our series of my top 10, the principles and the values or the lessons that undergird the lives of accomplished people. My guest for today, Moses K. Baiden, CEO of the Margins Group, sharing with us so far lesson number 1, purpose; 2, passion; 3, values; 4, humanity; 5, knowledge; and then number 6, embrace change, because change is constant. When I come back from this break, I'll be finding out the 4 other lessons or principles in his life, and also bring on my colleague Nicole Akufu to ask him one question. And let's see how big the question she asks is. We'll also be finding out from him one conversation that changed his whole outlook on life. Last week was great at the Springboard virtual convocation. If you missed it, find it on YouTube at Albert Ocran or our Facebook pages and just relive that amazing experience. You will find on the stream people who came virtually and also won some huge wow moments. Talking about wow moments, there's a big one coming your way, because the MTN wow moment that was launched at the convocation actually continues. So if you have not yet done so, these are the steps to win in the wow moment. In the month of May, I'm going to announce 5 winners, not 1, not 2, 5 winners, one every Sunday throughout the month of May. How do you win? Number 1, download the MTN Pulse app and mash up. That is step 1. Step 2, get 10 of your friends, your family, your acquaintances to also download the MTN Pulse app and mash up. And of course, make a list of them and their numbers. And then 3, send us your name, your phone number, and your list of people that you have brought onto the app to info@springboard.com.gh, or WhatsApp it to us at 02499995555. Once we get that, you are in there. The good news is that throughout the month of May, every single Sunday or every single week on your virtual university, I'm going to announce one winner who will win 1,000 Ghana cedis worth of data or airtime. Someone said that will last you for 2 years at least. That is the benefit of the Wow Moment. So MTN Pulse Wow Moment, this is your chance to sign up. Download the app and mash up. When we come back from the break, we'll continue this amazing conversation. Please don't go away.
There once was a man who had it all. He had skill, he had charisma. He was loved by all, but above all, he knew the importance of helping others, lifting others up. He knew the importance of giving other people an advantage so that they too would use that advantage to help others. All you need is that advantage that sets you apart from the rest. And when you discover that advantage, life's challenges don't seem so daunting anymore. That's where we come in. Enterprise, your advantage.
Don't be left out. Download the Pulse app from the App Store or Play Store to mash up all day, every day. You can also enjoy more mashup. Just buy the new Mega Bundle and get 3 gigabytes data, extra 400 megabytes for your social apps, and free MTN to MTN calls every Monday. So go ahead, feel the pulse on MTN Pulse. Just be. We're good together. Everywhere you go.
UMB was established in 1972 as the premier bank for the corporate and private sector in Ghana. From our very beginning, as the only Ghanaian bank serving all categories of businesses, we set a standard for excellence and innovation. Over the past 45 years, we've built a financially healthy and strong bank, demonstrated our commitment to our customers and to growing businesses, and exhibited originality and innovation at every turn. At UMB, our focus is built around people, service, products and technology. These are the key to our present success and our future triumphs. At UMB, we're poised to make a difference not only with our customers, but also in the banking industry. We invite you to share in our future. Our future starts now with you.
Welcome back to Springboard, Virtual University, and to this amazing conversation, the first in our series on the top 10. And I have the honor of hosting Moses K. Baiden, Group CEO of the Margins Group. Moses, walk us through the remaining four, and then let's find out what led to those thoughts.
So when you know your customers, and you know what products and solutions and services will serve their needs, the products come after the needs, because the customers' needs are constant. But the products and solutions and services that meet those needs, they change. So as long as you know the need that you're trying to fulfill, and you know the effective market size and the difficulty there is to scale to meet that market size that you want, then you have a framework within which you think. And then what you have to consider is, what can I do different? That will give me a competitive edge over my competitors.
So you're saying that before you can talk about going global, you need to understand the customers and their
market
needs
side
must drive
what you're
business
doing.
model.
And the needs is needs. Some of the needs they don't even know themselves.
Okay.
You know,
Known and unknown.
unknown.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. And that's number 7. What's
Yes.
number 8?
Apart from the passion that drives you, what will sustain you on that journey? I thought about life-work balance, but you need inner peace. And so, even in choosing a partner for marriage and in keeping the environment in your home, if you really want to be an effective leader and perform at a certain level, it's a lot of stress, as you know. Sometimes you're doing 18, 20 hours for years. And you need peace at home. You need a family framework. You need support. You need people that will help you go through the difficulties.
Can the absence of a peaceful home potentially fight your business dream?
Yeah. And it could even end your life prematurely. So the point is, you will create all these massive, significant, impactful businesses, and you don't have a fulcrum to balance your life and to bring your personal fulfillment. And it's not about money. At a certain stage, it's not really about money. You can't spend all that money, right? When you die, you can't go with it.
They say when an accomplished person says it's not all about money, the beginner says, no, you see, it's because you've got it. If you haven't got it, the money has to come first before you can say it's not all about money.
That's the difference.
What would you say to that?
I think that and that's where asking the right question comes in, right? If you have the ability for your mind to travel to places where you haven't actually experienced, but you can let your mind experience the things other people have experienced, you'll be significant by listening. Do you understand me? I can experience, but what you've experienced if I'm interested in listening to your story. And for every leader, even for my team, you have to be able to step into the shoes of the young people they are mentoring and try to figure out what they are seeing. You have to find a way to communicate to them, to understand what you're trying to explain. But if you can't take their position, you cannot understand. That's why you have to be empathetic, and you have to be able to take multiple viewpoints at the same time. If you do that, you have a better sense of reality.
Wow.
You understand me?
So know your customers is number 7. Inner peace.
Yes.
And peace at home is number 8. Home will be number 9.
You have to understand the principles of money.
Understand the principle of money.
The principles of money.
I have a feeling that will be the number 1.
Money has rules.
You know, the first time you said this to me, I'm trying to remember, it was in the early 90s.
Yeah.
I'm sure you don't remember yourself.
I don't remember, no.
Early 90s means probably about how many years now?
Oh, 30 years. Because
yes.
my business,
you said this to me 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember exactly where we were standing when you said it.
Yeah.
You asked me in a different way, but let's come back to it.
My father taught me how to understand money.
What is the language of money? What are the principles?
Oh, they're very,
what does it mean?
It's not even complicated. You don't have to have an MBA to understand it. The first thing is that my father taught me is that you should, even when you are hungry, you should never kill the hen that lays the eggs. And when you learn that principle, you learn to cut your coat according to your size. Do you get me? Don't follow other people in spending money that you haven't earned. It's a simple principle. You can't go bankrupt if you don't spend more than you earn. You understand me? It's very important. And never borrow for consumption. When you borrow, always make sure that you can cover the risk.
Always make sure you can
cover the risk.
Wow.
And don't borrow for personal expenditure. If you borrow, almost make sure that you can cover the risk.
I have a feeling that it's a lesson that many startups are battling with.
So it's the mind. You know, the young people today, they want everything now. And they are living in this millennial social media world where people make videos about things that are not really true. They have this, they have that, they have that. But, you know, if you have a deep sense of where you're going, you have priorities. I mean, I was telling some young people that when I bought my first flat when I was 24, right? And I never paid rent before. So I had a bed for several years, maybe 6 years. I had only a bed and a fridge and a small TV, no curtains. But I was buying hundreds of thousands worth of stock. But I couldn't afford to buy curtains. My friend just, Stoney, why don't you just buy curtains? I said, I can't afford it. So what do you mean by you can't afford? You see, because you have a sense of what your priorities are.
Will I put that under the discipline that you mentioned?
Well, it's the rules of money.
Okay.
Really. It's the rules of money.
Let me pick number 10, and I'm going to come back to this because the rules of money are, I think we should have a whole show about it.
It can be a whole elaborate. I mean, this is simple principles, but it's, of course, in the corporate world, it's much more complicated. But even that, there are basic principles. I don't need to do it myself. I have a lot of experts in my team who I can ask, but the principle is the same. Can you tell me this, that they're bringing a whole set of spreadsheets and revenue models and risk analysis, and we have so many smart people on that team. But the important thing is, when you sift through all that, can you apply the rules that gives you the options. And how do you really know that the option that you've chosen is optimized? So what's the cost-benefit analysis of that? What's the opportunity cost? Is it the time to do one thing or the other? Are you with me?
Yeah.
But if you have the rules of money, it's simple.
Just
don't go and spend money that you don't have. How simple is that? Don't buy unnecessary things and a different priority from what is important for your business. It's not that complicated. People always look at the end of the story. No, I just told you the beginning.
Wonderful.
That the beginning, I had a mattress on the floor. It's not because I didn't have any money. No, my priorities were different. I had a fridge. I needed a cooker because I never cooked. I was too busy. I had a small TV. I could buy a big one, but I needed money for something else. And it's not a matter of how much money you have. It's different circumstances. So that's why you need the top principles. Don't kill the hen that is the golden egg. Don't spend more than you earn. And when you borrow, make sure you can cover the risk.
Very important. 3 keys
That's
to money.
3.
Last point, 10 point.
Well, you also have to strive for excellence.
Strive for excellence.
Yeah, if you are going to play in the Premier League, don't play in a cold team. I mean, you may start in the cold team, but aim to be the Premiership. I mean, personally, I advise young members of my team that listen, you're learning stuff. Sometimes you think, oh, I'm stuck in the middle, I don't know where I'm going. But when you apply yourself, you volunteer, you volunteer, you seek. If there's a project, you volunteer to do it because you're working with a great director. We have some very great people on our team. A lot of great people. A lot of them fancy boys as well, And as a young person, when you work with people, you should volunteer. All these sort of... That's my frustration. It's what's in people's minds. They rather go and talk some politics, do something stupid. I mean, there's a whole wide world of things to do. You have a great person you're working with. Learn everything you can. Think rationally. Don't worry about the other man and what he has. Those are small-minded things.
And that's exactly why we brought you here on Springboard, to open up the next generation to possibilities they may not have considered. Talking about the next generation, I have Nicola Kufu in the studio today. I purposefully brought her to ask you a question, and you said what you want to hear, that the question should be good. Nicole, have you been on radio before?
Just once.
You have?
Yes.
Okay, so today it's your turn to ask Mr. Baiden a question. I'm sure listening to his story, you're probably looking at yourself and saying, one day we'll also get there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So over to you. Ask Mr. Baiden your question.
Thank you so much for such an insightful session. During your discussion, you said something that struck me. You said examine your purpose in order to find relevance and fulfillment in life. After law school, you decided to enter into the business world. What made you certain that this was what you wanted to do at the young age of 23?
For me, I must say that it's quite easy for me. My father was an extraordinary businessman. And without knowing it, he had been taking me to work and putting me in all kinds of very difficult situations, from fitting shops to sitting in a tipper truck in his transport company to taking stock and selling spare parts to supervising, building, working with laborers, all that. So in that sense, from an early age, you build a certain passion to start from ground zero and build things. And you get the confidence that you can do it. And in that sense, I might say that I'm lucky. So when I just found out much later on that most of my mates, if I said I was going to do something, so I was always thinking about going to build something or do it. So it's a passion. But of course, having said that, not all my brothers do what I do. So there's a difference in different passions, right? And passion doesn't necessarily have to translate into fabulous wealth, per se. You start something that you're passionate about. I could tell you several stories about people doing things. My own brother-in-law, Bishop Edward Mills, started this church in a dining hall in Kolibu. I used to go. And today, he sold over 30 million books. I never thought that, writing books like Albert does, you could sell 30 million books. But that's a passion for books. I don't know whether, in his case, it was a business, but if you made $1 for a book that 30 million people want to buy, that's $30 million.
Yeah.
Somebody could decide to be a corrupt official and steal as much money from the national pace as possible. And to what effect? You know. So Albert is living combat, changing lives, talking to people. He called me at a day's notice. I decided to come and have a conversation, even though I'm extremely busy, because I believe in what he's doing. You know, and me and him share a lot of values, and we've been to the same schools. We actually lived in the same house before. So it's helping him out, something to do. So, Albert's coming, we'll go. Let's postpone this and then we'll go have a conversation with him. So we're driven by what we're passionate about. I believe sincerely, and this is not something that you put in a book just by saying, that whatever you put your mind to, whether it's writing books like my brother-in-law or doing what Albert is doing to change lives, you have an impact. And if that makes him happy, it gives him significance. That's what I was talking about. So if you identify, you could also do something. He used to own a printing press before, right? Apart from being a good writer and much, he's got several skills. But I'm glad that he's chosen one. You get me?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I'm sure he's done 2 or 3 things in your life. Yeah. You've chosen one. Look at what a great impact it's made. Not because you are going to make a ton of money. I don't think in the beginning you're thinking about money. But today, the lives that you will impact. And then you still have to consider the rules of money, because I dare say that this studio costs money, right? We have to have cash flow. We have to make sure that the show is significant enough to have the likes of MTN and Enterprise Insurance, and maybe margins in the future, wanting to put money in it. We love him, but that's not because of that, but because he has visibility and he carries some brand communication. So that's what I mean. I don't know what your passion is. And sometimes people are waiting for their mentors to tell them what their passion is. It doesn't work that way.
It must be you yourself.
Yeah, it's a spring from the soul. And who knows what will happen.
You owe me 2 answers before we wrap up in 2 minutes. Yeah. And the first is about, did you ever have an encounter with someone that you spoke to for just a minute or a couple of minutes or an hour, or just in one interaction you were like?
Oh, several. I told you everything that I know I've learned from some people. And sometimes it's not even, I'm even learning from my team members, the young people. Because I listen. You understand me? I listen. So at this age, sometimes I don't listen too well, because when I listen, I hear this doesn't make sense. I already know. But I'm voracious in terms of the way that I think that's something I'm lucky with. I imbue information, you know. And I remember when I was maybe 25, you know, I've been buying from this Swiss company, and they give me some small credit. They had a small office in London. They give me some 10,000, 20,000. And I said, I need a bigger credit. So they said, Moses, like the day that you buy £100,000, was it 100 or 200,000 pounds? We'll then take you to another business so that you can speak to you about what you want to do in a credit. So the day I hit the 200,000 pound sale, I called up this German guy. Hi, Raylan, did you look at my account? He said, yeah, Moses, yeah, he promised me we have to go and meet the doctor. He's got Dr. Hufensberger. And so he said, okay, we're going to go to CeBIT, which is a trade fair in Hanover. And we're going to see the doctor. I booked an appointment for you. And this is a really rich guy, very important guy. We went to this CeBIT fair in Hanover. They used to have it every year. Now, the fair, I was the only black person at that fair at that time. It was a big computer fair. I told you I was interested in computer. I was the only person who was going there for years. I'd never see another black man, because the black people were probably not interested in that, right? So we went and sat in this booth. There was a long queue of very well-dressed white males mostly, and very expensive suits and ties. I had to be looking at mine all the time, you know. And I was the last person to say. So when I came in, I said, oh, Mr. Baiden, so what can I do for you? And this is when you have a short time. So I said, you know, I want to represent you in West Africa. He said, really? Okay. Why is that? What do you want to do? So I brought out I was a lawyer. I wasn't a business person then, right? I mean, in terms of knowing really, you know, pictures I'm taking, what I was doing, the markets I was going to. So when I finished talking plans, he just asked me 3 questions. He said, what kind of government has Ghana got? This has been in 95. So I said, we're a democracy. How long has your democracy been? I said, 2 years. Okay. What's your GDP? I didn't know that. So I said, I didn't know. He said, okay. I can tell you. So he told me. Then he said, what's your population? So I told him. Then he said to me that, you know, you're a remarkable young man. You're very passionate. I can see that you're going to do very well. But I give you all the rights for West Africa. You can have the whole market, exclusive. So I said, okay. He said, by the way, can you join me at dinner today at the Queen's Hotel? And Chris Hotel is the most expensive hotel in Queen. I was staying with some Ghana family somewhere in, I know I could hardly afford it, I could afford, but I didn't want to pay for the taxi fares and all that. Anyway, so in the evening, I went to the Queen's Hotel and I was thinking, why is this guy asking me these questions? So he sat me right by him. And so after a while, I asked him, Doc, I want to know something. I know that you're a doctor of economics and I'm just a lawyer. I don't understand. What's the import? He asked me these 3 questions. Why is that? It's it's very simple. If the government is not stable, then the economy will be bad. It's not predictable. That's one. So before you make an investment, we have to look at how long the government is stable because of the risk. And 2, when you know the GDP of the country, you know the population, you can do GDP and population analysis across countries and you can see the market size. And because our policy is not to go into some markets with a certain size, because it's too expensive and too risky for us, we prefer to work with partners. So you see, that was the conversation. So now I understand it, and I've just given you that lesson in one of my 10, right? Somebody taught me that.
So you talked about the kind of thinking that you have, and this definitely was one of the things.
Yes, you can imagine. He just gave me 40 years of experience.
Moses, sign off with your outlook into the future. And I hate to end interviews like this because I'm learning even more than our viewers and listeners. I'm going to up to you, Nicole, to sign off today to tell me one thing that you've learned. But Moses, tell me, when you look into the future, what do you see?
I think that the future, the positive side of it, is that because of the confluence of digitization and the singularity of the channels that are going through, anybody, anywhere is able to publish content, and it gets to everywhere in an instant. The people that actually make products sometimes are not the people that benefit from it because of this fourth industrial revolution. That means that mindset, knowledge, orientation, critical thinking is going to control the world, not being capital. I think that the demographics of Africa, with a young population that has the raw material for this age, is critical. Policy, both public and private and companies, should be focused on renting the minds of this raw material, which is unique to us, and putting in the critical thinking and the content that will create the mind that we shape tomorrow. Because you look at North America, you look at Europe, their population is old. When you're old, you're different. Your mind is weak. Unless you will find some gene therapy that's going to make people's minds change. We have a huge opportunity to teach people the principles, in this case, of business, so we can transform our societies. And also to look at the values that drive the economy. Communism has failed to a large extent, but capitalism has its own problems as well. Because if we have this rapacious appetite to just take and take and take, without looking at climate control and looking at how the world is going to be sustainable, then we'll collapse the whole world, right? Now, with AI, with data analytics, with robotics, with augmented reality, with all the new tools that a man in Nima has, all they need is an internet connection. Just like the little child in Silicon Valley. Why can't we do the same? And we as a company and as a team of people in mind, that's what we strive for every day. Trying to change the paradigm. It's not going to be easy. And people say, it's Africa, they have this. But that's fine. The environment is part of the problem. Let's think ourselves out of it. And the only way we can do that is not just by talking. It's by creating role models, by showing. We're not going to have a perfect world. And I don't think people should be pontificating about the problems that we have. We know the problems that we have. How do we solve them? It's going to be solved by the youth, the people that we're going to train today. And it's my hope, and we try that in a small way, is to inspire people to think differently and leave the little things behind. To think critically and solve problems, not just keep getting academic certificates that don't mean anything. It's okay to have the theory of things, but let's actually get your hands and solve problems, because this is our time. Moses
Baiden, you've really lit up our show today with some very inspiring thoughts. And for the benefit of those who may be asking, all right, so I just joined in and this has been so great. Let me remind you that purpose, passion, values, humanity, knowledge, embrace change, know your customers, inner peace. Number 9, understand the principles of money. And number 10, strive for excellence are the 10 commandments of Moses Baiden. Let me add 11. Employ smart people. He said it several times in his presentation, and I know he does that for a fact, so I'll add it for him. Let me come to you, Nicole, to sign off and tell me one big thing you've learned from today.
So in everything, he says that the world has needs. And in order to meet those needs, you have to gain knowledge. But you have to gain knowledge that solves problem. That's my key takeaway from this section.
I'm going to ask you 5 years from now what you did with what you learned from Mr. Baiden, because I'm learning some very significant things myself, and I'm going to account for them in a big way in the days ahead. Most, I want to say a big thank you to you for coming.
Thank you. It's been a great pleasure.
It's been an amazing experience, and we look forward to doing this again.
Definitely.
Let me thank the team at Margins that helped coordinate this interview, Akia and the whole crew at Margins. God bless you so much. So this is Springboard, a virtual university. This is the first in our series of discussions on top 10, and Mr. Baiden has literally raised the bar. Next week, join us once again as we explore the principles that undergird the lives of accomplished people and the experiences that help them to arrive at those principles. I have several learnings from today, and I'm struggling to choose between meeting the rich man and the learning from that one, or how to ask questions, listen to the answer, and remember them. But I'm going to settle on one thing: having a mattress, putting it on the floor, having a small fridge, and not buying curtains. Buying stock for years. Let's do this again next week. On behalf of Comfort and Team Springboard, I want to say a big thank you to the Multimedia Group for partnering us in this venture, and to our sponsors, MTN Pulse, UNB Bank, the Enterprise Group, and the Graphic Business. Join us on Tuesday in the Graphic Business for a transcript of this interview, and take a time and read the lessons over and over again. My name is Albert Ocran. God bless you, and God bless you.